This is our future now, man. What are you doing?
Stopping your deal.
Daniel Whitmore raised his glass in a room full of investors and cameras, smiling as if he owned everything in it. 15 years, he said, then placed his hand on Vanessa Pierce's shoulder. And tonight, I'm choosing something better. Laughter followed. At the front table, Evelyn Sterling sat still while her husband replaced her in public. What Daniel didn't know was simple. Everything he was celebrating depended on her, and she hadn't said a word. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 15 years earlier, none of this had looked inevitable. The ballroom shimmered with glass and gold, the kind of place that made success feel permanent. Cameras hovered near the stage. Investors leaned in, already expecting a deal to close before dessert. This night was supposed to mark Daniel Whitmore's biggest victory. Instead, it began with a quiet betrayal. Evelyn didn't move when the laughter spread across the room. She kept her posture straight, her hands folded lightly in her lap. She had chosen the dress carefully, simple, elegant, understated. Daniel had once told her it made her look less like she was trying too hard. Tonight, she understood what he had meant, less visible, less important. Vanessa stood beside him, confident, polished, completely at ease in a room that had never belonged to her, until recently. She didn't look at Evelyn directly, but her presence did something louder than any insult. It replaced her. Margaret Whitmore clapped first, loud, deliberate, the kind of applause that told the room how to react. Within seconds, others followed, some out of politeness, some out of curiosity, some because they had already decided which side mattered. "Isn't this wonderful?" Margaret said, leaning slightly toward Evelyn as if they were sharing a private joy. A man finally stepping into his future. Evelyn turned her head just enough to meet her eyes. There was no anger there, no embarrassment. Just something quieter, recognition. She had seen this moment coming long before tonight. Across the room, Daniel continued speaking, his voice smooth and controlled. He talked about growth, about expansion, about moving forward. He didn't say the word wife again. He didn't need to. Evelyn felt the shift settle fully now. Not sudden, not surprising, just complete. For years, Daniel had believed he built everything himself. That the company rising behind him was the result of his vision alone. That the nights Evelyn spent reviewing numbers at the kitchen table had been small things. That the early clients she convinced to stay had been luck. He had never asked where the stability came from when everything should have collapsed. He had never asked because he never imagined the answer mattered. A waiter passed by. Someone laughed too loudly near the stage. Glasses clinked. The room moved on as if nothing irreversible had just happened. Evelyn's gaze drifted to the far side of the ballroom. A man stood there, gray-haired, composed, speaking quietly to one of the staff. He didn't belong to the celebration. He wasn't smiling. Benjamin Lawson, he didn't approach her immediately. He didn't interrupt. He simply waited, as if timing mattered more than urgency. It always had. Evelyn looked back toward the stage. Daniel was watching her now, just for a second. His expression wasn't cruel, not exactly. It was something more casual than that, dismissive. "Don't make this heavier than it needs to be," he said when he stepped down, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "You've always had a way of doing that." She held his gaze. "I'm not the one speaking," she said quietly. He exhaled, already impatient, already finished with the conversation. "You know what I mean?" Yes, she did. He meant that she was no longer useful. He meant that whatever they had built no longer included her. He meant that the room had already decided. Evelyn nodded once, as if acknowledging something simple. Not surrender, just clarity. Vanessa stepped closer to Daniel, slipping naturally into the space that had once been Evelyn's. She spoke to him in a tone meant to be heard by others, light and confident, already part of the future he had announced. Evelyn watched the way people responded, the subtle shifts, the small realignments, investors leaning toward Vanessa instead of her, conversations adjusting direction, attention moving, power didn't disappear, it moved. And tonight, everyone believed it had moved away from her. That was the part that almost made her smile, because the truth sat quietly beneath all of it. The deal Daniel was celebrating, The expansion he had promised. The entire structure holding his company upright. None of it existed without a signature he didn't even know he needed. Evelyn reached for her clutch, her fingers brushing the smooth surface of something inside. She didn't take it out. Not yet. Timing mattered. Across the room, Benjamin Lawson finally stepped forward. Not rushed, not hesitant, just precise. He spoke to a waiter first. Calm. Controlled, then he glanced toward Evelyn, and for the first time that night, someone in that room looked at her as if she mattered more than everything else happening around them. "Excuse me," the waiter said, approaching her tables. "Mom, there's someone asking for you." Evelyn didn't stand, not yet. She looked once more at Daniel, at Vanessa, at the room that had already rewritten her place in it. Then she turned her attention back to the waiter. "Who is it?" she asked. The waiter hesitated, glancing briefly toward the far end of the ballroom. A Mr. Lawson. The name settled between them. And Evelyn finally let her fingers close around what she had been holding all along. She still didn't move. Evelyn didn't stand right away. She let the waiter step back, let the moment breathe, let the weight of the name settle inside her chest before she moved. Around her, the room continued as if nothing had shifted. Laughter still lingered near the stage, glasses still lifted. Vanessa's voice blended into Daniel's, smooth and confident, already weaving herself into his narrative. But something had changed. Evelyn rose slowly, her chair barely making a sound against the polished floor. No one stopped her. No one asked where she was going. That more than anything told her exactly where she stood now. Invisible. She walked past the edge of the table, past the cluster of guests who had already turned their attention elsewhere. No one noticed the quiet exit of the woman who had just been replaced. Or if they did, they chose not to acknowledge it. That was easier. Benjamin Lawson waited near the far side of the ballroom, just beyond the main crowd. He didn't step forward to meet her. He let her come to him, the way someone does when they understand the importance of control. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, his voice low, respectful, but precise. "I wasn't sure you would come tonight." Evelyn stopped in front of him. "You said timing mattered. It does." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sounds of the celebration felt distant here, like something happening behind glass. "You've seen it already," he said. "Yes. And?" Evelyn glanced over her shoulder, just some. Daniel stood at the center of it all, surrounded, admired, certain. Vanessa leaned slightly into him, her hand resting near his arm as if she had always belonged there. Evelyn turned back. "He's moving faster than I expected," she said. Benjamin nodded. "That tends to happen when someone believes there's no resistance." A faint, almost humorless breath left her. "He's not even looking for it." "No," Benjamin said. "He isn't." He opened the folder he had been holding, careful, deliberate. Inside were documents Evelyn had never physically seen before, though she had always known they existed somewhere. "Your father structured this with a very specific condition," Benjamin said. "It matures this week, after 15 years. Evelyn's fingers tightened slightly around her clutch. "I know. What you may not know is how close you are to losing it." That made her look up. Benjamin slid one sheet forward, just enough for her to see the header. Legal language, dense, exact. It's not designed to be read casually. "There's movement," he continued. "Not from you, from them." "Them," she repeated. "Your husband," he said evenly, and the woman standing beside him. Evelyn didn't react outwardly, but something shifted under the surface. Not surprise. "Confirmation, Vanessa," she said. "Yes." He watched her carefully, measuring her response. "She's not there by accident. I figured that much. She's been asking questions, quietly. The kind of questions that suggest she already knows where to look." Evelyn thought back to that dinner. The way Vanessa had smiled. The way she had mentioned Sterling as if it were a name that mattered more than it should. "She asked about my father," Evelyn said. Benjamin's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. That would make sense. She knew too much. She still does. Evelyn looked down at the document again. What exactly is she trying to do? Benjamin hesitated for the first time. "Your father didn't just leave assets," he said. "He left control, structured in a way that prevents anyone from accessing it prematurely, and structures like that don't just sit quietly when they're close to maturing. They attract attention, especially from people who understand what they're worth." Evelyn let that settle. "So they're trying to get ahead of it," she said. "Yes." "How?" Benjamin slid another page forward. This one was marked, flagged, a section highlighted. By positioning themselves around your husband's company, he said. By tying his financial future to something he doesn't understand. Evelyn's mind moved quickly now, faster than the conversation. The merger, she said. Benjamin met her eyes. You've seen it. Yes. And you noticed the backer. Evelyn nodded once. Sterling Meridian Group. Benjamin didn't smile. Which, as you know, is not publicly associated with you. Not publicly, she said. No. Silence stretched between them again. From across the room, a burst of applause rose. Daniel must have said something else worth celebrating. Or something people wanted to believe was. Evelyn didn't turn this time. What does he think is happening? She asked. Benjamin answered without hesitation. He believes he's securing the deal of his life. And what is he actually doing? Benjamin closed the folder slowly. He's building his future on something that doesn't belong to him. Evelyn's jaw tightened slightly, not in anger, in clarity. And Vanessa? She's making sure he never realizes it until it's too late. A quiet weight settled in Evelyn's chest, not panic, not fear, recognition. She had spent 15 years understanding how Daniel moved, what he wanted, what he ignored, what he assumed. This fit too well. He's going to ask me to sign something, she said. Benjamin's gaze sharpened again. Yes. When? Soon. How do you know? 'Cause he can't close without you, Benjamin said. Even if he doesn't know that yet. Evelyn let out a slow breath. Across the ballroom, Daniel laughed again. Vanessa leaned closer. Margaret watched everything with quiet approval. Now, the picture was complete. Then I don't sign, Evelyn said. No, Benjamin replied. You don't. Another pause. But that's not enough. Evelyn looked at him. What is? Benjamin held her gaze for a long second. You need to see everything, he said, not just what he's done, what they're planning. And how do I do that? For now, Benjamin said carefully, you stay exactly where they expect you to be. Evelyn almost smiled, invisible. Can you do that? He asked. She thought of the last 15 years, of the nights she stayed quiet, of the decisions she made that no one saw, of the way she had already learned to exist in the background of her own life. Yes, she said. Benjamin nodded once. Then we move carefully, he said. We document, we wait. And when the time comes, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. From across the room, Daniel's voice cut through the noise again, louder now. Calling for attention, calling for another toast. Evelyn turned her head slightly this time, just enough to see him again. Confident, certain, unaware. She closed the folder Benjamin had handed her and slid it back toward him. Send me copies, she said. I already have. Good. She adjusted her grip on her clutch, feeling the outline of something solid inside it. Something she hadn't opened yet. Something that had been waiting longer than any of them understood. When she stepped back toward the main room, no one noticed the difference. Not Daniel, not Vanessa, not Margaret. To them, she was still exactly what she had always been. A woman who stayed quiet, a woman who didn't fight, or a woman who would eventually step aside. Evelyn turned to her seat without a word. Daniel glanced at her briefly as he raised his glass again. There you are, he said, almost casually. Try not to disappear tonight. She met his eyes. I won't, she said. And for the first time, there was something in her tone he didn't recognize. He frowned, just slightly, then dismissed it. The room leaned in for his next announcement. Evelyn folded her hands in her lap again. Calm still, watching, and when the music swelled and the voices rose, her phone vibrated once against the inside of her clutch. She didn't check it immediately, but she knew who it was before she looked. When she finally did, the message was short. We found the account, it's in your name, and it's already been used. Evelyn didn't look up right away. She let the message sit on the screen, unread for a second longer than necessary, as if the delay could slow what it meant. Around her, the applause rose again, louder this time. Daniel had reached the part of the night where confidence turned into performance. His voice carried easily across the ballroom, practiced, persuasive, already shaping the story everyone would repeat tomorrow. Evelyn finally read the message again. We found the account. It's in your name, and it's already been used. Her fingers tightened slightly around the phone before she slipped it back into her clutch. Her face didn't change. It never did, not in rooms like this. That had always been her strength, or what they mistook for weakness. Daniel was speaking about expansion now, about scale, about partnerships that would redefine his company. Each word built on the last, smooth and certain, or like nothing could interrupt the trajectory he had already decided was his. Evelyn listened carefully. Not to the tone, to the details. He mentioned numbers that felt inflated. Timelines that didn't match the internal reports she had reviewed months ago. Or assumptions that only made sense if someone had adjusted the truth to make them appear possible. She had seen that before. Not in him, but around him. Vanessa stepped forward at one point, just slightly. Enough to catch the attention of a group of investors seated near the front. She didn't interrupt Daniel. She didn't need to. A quiet comment, a measured nod. A glance at the right moment. She was already shaping decisions. Evelyn noticed the way one of the investors, an older man with a cautious posture, watched Vanessa instead of Daniel when certain numbers came up. Not fully convinced, not fully aligned. That hesitation mattered. It meant the room wasn't as stable as it looked. Evelyn. Margaret's voice cut in softly beside her. You should try to look pleased. People are watching. Evelyn turned her head slowly. Are they? Margaret's smile tightened. They always are, especially tonight. For him, Evelyn said. For the future, Margaret corrected. Evelyn held her gaze for a second longer than usual. Whose future? Margaret didn't answer that. She simply turned back toward the stage, her attention already shifting to Daniel again. That, more than anything, made it clear. Evelyn was no longer part of the equation. Across the room, Vanessa laughed at something, Daniel said, her hand resting lightly on his arm again. Not possessive, not obvious, just enough. Enough to make it real. Evelyn's phone vibrated again. This time, she didn't wait. The second message was shorter, the signature matches a scanned version, not original. Someone recreated it. Evelyn exhaled quietly through her nose. That confirmed what she already suspected. Forgery, not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, or a decision. She shifted slightly in her seat, adjusting the angle of her body just enough to create a small barrier between herself and the rest of the table. No one noticed. No one ever noticed small movements like that. That was why she made them. She typed a single reply. Send me the timestamps and the transfer path. She didn't add anything else. No emotion, no questions, just control. When she looked up again, Daniel was stepping down from the stage. The applause followed him, but it had already started to soften, the way applause does when people begin to turn toward their own conversations again. He moved easily through the crowd, shaking hands, smiling, already closing smaller deals in quiet corners, while the larger one hovered above everything. Vanessa stayed close. Evelyn watched the way they moved together. Not clumsy, not new, comfortable. That told her more than anything else. This hadn't started recently. It had just become visible. Daniel approached their table again, still carrying that same confidence, the same assumption that everything was unfolding exactly as he intended. How was that? He asked lightly, as if he expected approval. Evelyn met his eyes, convincing. He smiled, satisfied. That's the point. Vanessa lingered just behind him, her expression warm, almost polite now that she was closer. You must be proud, she said to Evelyn. It's not every day you see something this big come together. Evelyn looked at her. Really looked at her this time. Vanessa held the gaze easily. No hesitation, no discomfort. That was new. You're very involved for a consultant, Evelyn said. Vanessa's smile didn't change. I like to understand the full picture. I'm sure you do. Daniel shifted slightly, already losing interest in the exchange. We're moving fast now, he said. Things are going to change quickly. They already are, Evelyn replied. He didn't catch the weight in her tone, or he chose not to. I'll need you to come by the office tomorrow, he added. There are a few documents we need to finalize before the next step. Evelyn didn't answer right away. Vanessa watched her carefully now. Not openly, but enough. What kind of documents? Evelyn asked. Standard stuff, Daniel said, waving it off. Formalities, nothing complicated. That was the first lie, not the biggest, just the easiest to say. Evelyn nodded once. Send them over first. Daniel's expression tightened for a fraction of a second. It'll be quicker if we just handle it in person. I prefer to read things before I sign them. Vanessa spoke before Daniel could respond. That's reasonable, she said smoothly. It's a big step. Daniel glanced at her, then back at Evelyn. Fine, he said. I'll have them sent tonight. Evelyn held his gaze. Good, that was the first boundary. Small, but real. Daniel didn't push further, he didn't need to. In his mind, the outcome was already decided. He turned back toward the room, already being pulled into another conversation. Vanessa lingered half a second longer. Then she leaned in slightly toward Evelyn. Things tend to move faster than people expect, she said quietly, especially when they don't realize what's at stake. Evelyn didn't react outwardly, but she heard it, the warning or the challenge. Then it's a good thing I'm paying attention, Evelyn replied. Vanessa straightened, her smile returning softer now. She walked away. Evelyn watched her go. Then she looked back down at her phone. Another message had come through, transfer path confirmed. Funds routed through Blackridge Capital LLC. Authorized under your credentials. Evelyn's fingers stilled. That wasn't just forgery. That was deliberate positioning. Someone hadn't just used her name. They had built something around it. She looked up again, scanning the room slowly. Daniel, Vanessa, Margaret, the investors, the board members. Everyone believed they knew exactly what was happening. Everyone was reacting to the version of reality placed in front of them. And underneath it, something else had already been set in motion. Evelyn reached into her clutch again, this time pulling out her phone fully. She opened a different thread, one she hadn't touched in years. The contact name was simple. Benjamin Lawson, she typed without hesitation. I need full access to every account under my name. No filters, no summaries. She paused, then added one more line, and I need it before he asks me to sign anything. She hit send. Across the room, Daniel raised his glass again, calling for another round of attention. Evelyn didn't look at him this time. She didn't need to. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. Benjamin's reply came through. Then we don't have much time. And for the first time that night, Evelyn understood exactly how close everything was to collapsing. Not for her, for him. Evelyn didn't leave the ballroom immediately. She stayed just long enough to watch Daniel settle back into his rhythm, or to see how easily he moved from one conversation to the next, as if nothing fragile sat beneath everything he was building. Investors circled him again. Laughter followed. Vanessa remained close, adjusting her tone depending on who stood in front of her. They looked like a partnership already. That was what made it dangerous. Evelyn slipped out quietly a few minutes later. No announcement. No goodbye. The valet brought her car without question, the night air cutting through the warmth of the ballroom, or as she stepped outside. Only then did she let herself breathe fully. Her phone buzzed again before she even reached the car door. Benjamin. I've opened the access you requested, he said the moment she answered. No greeting, no delay. Every account tied to your name. It's more complicated than we thought. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. Walk me through it. There's a primary account you recognize, he said. Then there are secondary layers, shell structures, transfers routed through Blackridge Capital. Evelyn leaned against the car, the cold metal grounding her. That's the same name tied to the transfer tonight. Yes, and it's not passive, it's active movement. Someone is using your credentials repeatedly. Not someone, Evelyn said quietly. Two people. Benjamin didn't argue. There's something else, he continued. The timing of the transfers aligns with the merger milestones Daniel has been pushing. Evelyn opened her eyes. He's leveraging my name to secure liquidity. Yes. And he doesn't know it's mine. No, Benjamin said. He believes it's a standard financing channel. Evelyn almost laughed, not out of humor, out of disbelief at how precise the manipulation was. He's not careful enough for this, she said. He didn't design it, Benjamin replied. He's just using it. Evelyn's mind moved quickly now, connecting pieces that had been separate until this moment. Vanessa, she said. Yes. She knew about Sterling before she met me properly. That wasn't curiosity, Benjamin said. That was targeting. Evelyn straightened. Then she didn't attach herself to Daniel because of his company. No, Benjamin said. She attached herself because of yours. Silence followed. The realization settled deeper than the betrayal itself. Daniel wasn't the center of the plan. He was the access point. Evelyn opened the car door and slid inside, shutting out the noise of the street. What about the documents he mentioned tonight? She asked. I intercepted a draft version, Benjamin said. They're preparing a personal guarantee structure. Evelyn's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Using my name, yes, and tying it to the merger. Yes, so if it goes through, you become responsible for the debt, Benjamin finished. Evelyn nodded slowly. That made sense. It was clean, efficient, and devastating if she didn't stop it. He's building the deal on my back, she said, and planning to walk away with the credit, Benjamin replied. Evelyn started the engine but didn't pull out yet. Send me everything, she said. Every document, every transaction. I want the full chain. You'll have it within the hour. And Benjamin, yes? If I sign anything, you won't, he said. Evelyn didn't respond to that. She just ended the call. The drive home was quiet. The city lights blurred past the windows, reflections shifting across the glass. For years, this route had felt like a return. Tonight, it felt like a distance. When she stepped into the house, the silence was immediate. No music, no voices, just the faint hum of the air system, and the echo of a space that no longer felt shared. Evelyn set her clutch down on the entry table and stood there for a moment, letting the stillness settle around her. Then she moved. Not slowly, not hesitantly, directly. She walked into Daniel's study. The room smelled faintly of leather and polished wood. Everything in it was arranged with intention, the way Daniel liked things to be. Order, control, presentation. Evelyn went straight to the desk. She didn't open drawers at random. She didn't search blindly. She knew exactly where to look. The bottom right drawer, locked. She paused only long enough to consider the implication. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small set of keys. Not his, or hers. She slid one into the lock and turned it. It opened inside, neatly stacked, were folders labeled with dates and project names. The merger documents were there, just as she expected. Evelyn pulled them out and laid them across the desk. She read carefully, line by line, not rushing, not skimming. The structure matched what Benjamin had described, financing tied to external channels, guarantees layered beneath it and buried deeper, exactly where someone hoped it wouldn't be noticed, her name not obvious, or not highlighted, but there, attached to a clause shift liability in a way most people wouldn't catch without training. Evelyn sat down slowly. He hadn't just asked her to sign something. He had planned to bind her, without telling her, or without asking. Her phone buzzed again. A new message from Benjamin. Check the attachment. There's a second version. Evelyn opened it. This one wasn't a draft. It was finalized. Her name already filled in. A digital signature placed where her hand should have been. For a long second, nothing moved inside her. Then something settled. Not anger, not shock, clarity. He had already signed for her. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air tighter. Evelyn stood up and walked to the window, looking out into the dark street beyond the glass. For 15 years, she had believed she understood the boundaries of what Daniel was capable of. She had been wrong. This wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. She turned back to the desk, picked up her phone, and dialed without hesitation. Benjamin answered immediately. He signed it, she said, a pause. Are you certain? I'm looking at it. Another pause. Shorter this time. Then it's no longer just civil, Benjamin said. That crosses into criminal. Evelyn nodded, even though he couldn't see her. I know. You need to secure everything, he continued. Documents, records, timestamps. Don't confront him. Not yet. I won't. And Evelyn, yes? This changes the timeline. She understood what that meant. Things were moving faster now, so we move faster too, she said. She ended the call and looked down at the document again. Her name, his decision, someone else's plan, all layered together. Evelyn reached for a pen, then stopped. No, not yet. She closed the folder instead, sliding it back into place exactly as she had found it. No signs, no disruption. When Daniel came home, everything would look the same. That was the point. Evelyn stepped out of the study and turned off the light behind her. The house returned to silence. Her phone vibrated once more as she walked toward the stairs. Another message from Benjamin. There's one more thing you need to see. It wasn't attached, just a single line. The accountant is willing to talk. Evelyn stopped mid-step because that meant one thing. Someone inside Daniel's company knew exactly what had been done and was ready to say it out loud. Evelyn didn't sleep. She stayed in the study long after the house went quiet, the faint glow of her laptop the only light in the room. Documents spread across the desk, her phone within reach, her mind moving faster than the hours passing around her. When the message about the accountant came through, she had already begun building a timeline. Now she needed confirmation. Marcus Reed answered on the third call. His voice was low. Careful, I wasn't sure you'd reach out directly. Evelyn leaned back slightly in the chair. You said you were willing to talk. That sounds like fear. Silence followed. Not defensive, not offended, just honest. You should be careful, Marcus said, finally. This isn't something you just step into. Evelyn's gaze dropped to the document in front of her, the forged signature, the altered numbers. I've been in it longer than you think, she said. Another pause, then a slow exhale on the other end. What do you want to know? Marcus asked. Everything, Evelyn replied. Start with the financials Daniel presented tonight. They're not real, Marcus said immediately. Evelyn didn't react. Explain. He tripled the liquidity position, Marcus said. Shifted projected assets forward. It's all structured to make the merger look stable enough to close. And it's not? No. How far off is it? Far enough that no serious investor would sign if they saw the actual numbers. Evelyn's fingers tapped once against the desk. So he needed something to fill the gap. Yes, and that something was routed through accounts under my name. Another silence. You already know that part, Marcus said. I want to hear you say it. Marcus hesitated, then quietly, yes. Evelyn closed her eyes for a brief second. Was he the one who told you to adjust the statements? She asked. Yes, and Vanessa? A longer pause this time. She knew, Marcus said. She didn't give the order, but she knew what he was doing, and she didn't stop it. Evelyn nodded slowly. Because it benefited her, she said, yes. Evelyn leaned forward again. Tell me about Blackridge Capital. Marcus let out a breath that sounded almost like relief. That's not a real firm, not in the way they present it. It's a shell, a pass-through. For what? For funds that need to move without being traced directly. Evelyn's jaw tightened slightly. And it's tied to my accounts. Yes. Who set it up? I don't know for certain, Marcus said, but the access point came through Vanessa's side. She introduced it as a financing partner early in the deal. Evelyn's mind clicked into place. Vanessa hadn't just attached herself to Daniel. She had built a structure around him. How long has this been happening? Evelyn asked. About 8 months, Marcus said. That's when the first adjustments started. 8 months. Evelyn's gaze drifted toward the dark window. That was around the time Daniel started coming home later, around the time he stopped explaining things, around the time Vanessa's name first appeared. Why are you telling me this? Evelyn asked. Marcus didn't answer immediately. Because it's going to collapse, he said finally. And when it does, it won't just be him. Anyone tied to those documents will be pulled in. That includes you. Yes, and me, yes. Evelyn let that settle. That's why you're talking, she said. That's why I'm talking, Marcus agreed. Evelyn picked up a pen and wrote his name at the top of a blank page, underlined it once. You're going to send me everything you have, she said. I can't just. You can. Evelyn cut in quietly. Because right now, the only difference between being involved and being protected is who you choose to stand next to. Marcus didn't respond. But he didn't refuse either. I'll send what I can, he said finally. But you need to understand something. What? They think they're ahead. Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. They are, she said, for now. She ended the call before he could say anything else. The room felt different after that, clearer. The emotional weight of the evening hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted. It was no longer confusion, no longer hurt. It was direction. Evelyn gathered the documents into a single stack, aligning the edges carefully. Then she reached for her phone again and opened her messages with Benjamin. He had already sent over the full account breakdown, layers, transfers, timestamps. She moved through them methodically, tracing the flow from one account to another, following the path until it circled back to Blackridge, and then something new appeared. A flagged entry, recent, large, authorized within the last 48 hours. Evelyn leaned closer to the screen. The authorization code matched her credentials, but the timing didn't. She hadn't accessed anything in that window, which meant someone else had. Her pulse didn't spike. It slowed, because now she knew something important. They weren't just using her name. They were using her access, which meant they had something they shouldn't. Evelyn stood up slowly and walked back into the study, her movements more deliberate now. She opened a small drawer tucked into the side of the desk. Inside was a device most people wouldn't recognize. A hardware token authentication, her backup. She picked it up, turning it slightly in her hand, cold, unused. Still sealed exactly the way she had left it months ago, which meant one thing. They hadn't accessed her through this. So how had they done it? Evelyn's mind moved quickly, scanning possibilities. Old credentials, stored passwords, a copied signature. Or she stopped. Her gaze shifted toward the door. Daniel's study, his laptop, the way he had started handling more of the shared accounts himself over the past year. Not asking, just doing. Evelyn walked out of the room and down the hall, her steps quiet against the floor. She reached the study door and paused, listened, nothing. Then she opened it. The room was exactly as she had left it earlier, except for one thing, the laptop on the desk. Still open, still powered on, stepped closer. So the screen displayed a dashboard, financial accounts, multiple tabs open, and at the top, her name, not as owner, as active user. Evelyn's fingers hovered just above the keyboard. Not touching, not yet, because the moment she interacted with it, something would change. A log, a timestamp, a signal. She didn't need that, not yet. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and took a series of photos. Careful, precise, every screen, every tab, every visible detail. Then she stepped back, closed the laptop gently. Exactly the way it had been, no trace, no sign. Evelyn turned off the light and stepped out of the study again, closing the door behind her. Her phone buzzed once more. Marcus, I sent what I could. Check your email. Evelyn opened it immediately. Attachments, multiple files, transaction logs, internal communications, and one folder labeled simply, Draft Final Version. Evelyn opened it. Inside was the same document Daniel had shown her earlier, the one he planned to have her sign, but this version was different. At the bottom of the page, her signature was already there. Not scanned, not copied, recreated, perfectly. Evelyn stared at it for a long second. Then she closed the file. Her hand tightened slightly around the phone, because now there was no doubt left. This wasn't just a setup. It was already in motion, and Daniel believed it was done. Her phone buzzed again. This time from Benjamin. We need to meet first thing in the morning. There's something in the trust structure you haven't seen yet. Evelyn's gaze lifted slowly. Because if there was something she didn't know, then whatever Daniel and Vanessa were planning might be bigger than she thought. Evelyn arrived at Benjamin Lawson's office just after sunrise. The building was quiet, the kind of quiet that belonged to places where decisions were made before the rest of the world woke up. She didn't check in at the front desk. She didn't wait to be announced. They were expecting her. Benjamin stood when she entered, already holding a folder thicker than the one he had shown her the night before. He didn't offer coffee this time. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. You got my message, he said. Evelyn nodded. You said there was something I hadn't seen. There is. She closed the door behind her and stepped further into the room. Start there. Benjamin gestured toward the chair across from him. Sit. Evelyn didn't argue. She sat, her posture straight, her hands resting lightly in her lap, controlled, focused. Benjamin opened the folder. Everything you've seen so far, he began, is the surface, the accounts, the forged signature, the manipulated financials. All of that matters. But it's not the core. Evelyn held his gaze, then, what is? Benjamin slid a single document forward. This, Evelyn looked down. The paper was older, not worn, but different. The formatting wasn't recent. The language was tighter, more deliberate, less corporate, more personal. Yes, my father's. Yes. Evelyn's fingers hovered just above the page. I thought I understood it. You understood what it held, Benjamin said. Not how it works. Evelyn looked up, then explain it. Benjamin leaned back slightly, studying her for a moment before continuing. Your father didn't just build Sterling Meridian Group as an asset, he said. He built it as a structure that could only be controlled by someone he trusted. That someone being me. Yes, but not automatically. Evelyn's brow tightened slightly. What does that mean? Benjamin tapped a section of the document. The trust matures after 15 years, that part you know. But control doesn't transfer just because time passes. Evelyn leaned forward now, reading more closely. It transfers when the successor claims it, Benjamin said. Evelyn's eyes moved across the lines, slower now. And if they don't, she asked. Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Then control shifts, he said finally. To who? Benjamin met her gaze directly. To the first party who qualifies under the secondary clause. Evelyn felt something shift inside her chest. Not panic, not yet, but something sharper. What qualifies? She asked. Benjamin slid another page forward. Financial alignment, he said. Operational involvement. And legal positioning tied to the trust's active assets. Evelyn's fingers stilled. Say that again, she said quietly. If someone positions themselves in a way that connects them legally and financially to the trust's active operations, Benjamin repeated, they can argue for control if the primary successor hasn't claimed it. Evelyn's mind moved quickly now. Daniel's merger, the financing tied to Sterling Meridian Group, the accounts under her name, the forged guarantee. They're not just using the money, she said. No, Benjamin said. They're positioning themselves inside the structure. Evelyn leaned back slowly. And if I don't claim it before the maturity date, Benjamin didn't soften it. You risk losing control of everything your father built. Silence filled the room. Evelyn stared at the document, her thoughts aligning with a precision that left no room for denial. This isn't about the merger, she said. No, it's about the trust. Yes, and Daniel doesn't know that. No, Benjamin said. He thinks he's securing financing. Evelyn's voice dropped slightly. And Vanessa? She knows enough to be dangerous, Benjamin replied. Maybe not every detail, but enough. Evelyn exhaled slowly. That explained everything, the timing, the pressure, the sudden acceleration of the deal. They're racing the clock, she said. Yes, and they think they're ahead. Yes. Evelyn's lips pressed together briefly. They're not, she said. Benjamin watched her carefully. Not yet, Evelyn looked up. When does the trust mature? In 9 days. 9 days. The number settled heavily. And if I claim it first? Benjamin didn't hesitate. You take full, no dispute, no challenge. It becomes legally and structurally yours, and everything tied to it? Everything. Evelyn nodded once. And if I don't? Benjamin closed the folder slowly. Then you spent the next several years fighting to prove something that could have been yours without a fight. Evelyn looked down again at the document. Her father's handwriting appeared in one corner. A small note, barely visible unless you were looking for it. She had seen it before. She had never read it carefully, now she did. Take your time, but not too much. Evelyn's throat tightened slightly, not from fear. From understanding, he knew, she said. Benjamin nodded. He knew the kind of man you married. Evelyn let that sit. For 15 years, she had believed she was protecting something by staying quiet. Now she understood what she had actually been protecting. Time. And it was running out. What do I need to do? She asked. Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into the folder and pulled out another document. This is the claim form, he said. Prepared years ago. Held in trust. It needs your signature. Witnessed. Filed with the trust protector the moment the maturity date hits. Evelyn took it carefully, and until then? You don't alert them, Benjamin said. You don't confront them. You don't give them a reason to accelerate further. Evelyn nodded. And Daniel? Benjamin's expression didn't change. He continues exactly as he has been. Unaware. Evelyn folded the document and placed it back on the desk. And the merger? She asked. Benjamin allowed himself the smallest shift in tone. It cannot close without approval from Sterling Meridian Group. Evelyn's eyes lifted. And who controls that approval? She asked. Benjamin held her gaze. That depends on whether you claim the trust in time. The room felt very still. Evelyn stood up slowly. Then we don't have 9 days, she said. Benjamin tilted his head slightly. What do you mean? They're already inside the structure, Evelyn said. If Vanessa knows enough, she won't wait for the date. She'll push something earlier. A filing, a claim, anything that creates leverage. Benjamin considered that. You may be right, he said. Evelyn reached for her phone. Then we move first, she said. Benjamin's eyes narrowed slightly. Carefully, Evelyn nodded. I've been careful for 15 years. She turned toward the door, then paused. One more thing, she said without looking back. Yes? Evelyn's voice was calm, steady. He already signed for me. Benjamin didn't speak. He forged the guarantee, Evelyn continued, and he's using my access to move funds. A long pause. Then quietly, that changes things. Yes, Evelyn said, it does. She opened the door. And it means, she added, I don't need to wait for him to make the next mistake. Evelyn stepped out into the hallway, her pace measured but certain. Behind her, Benjamin picked up the phone immediately. Evelyn didn't hear what he said, or she didn't need to, because for the first time since the anniversary began, she wasn't reacting anymore, she was deciding. Her phone buzzed as she reached the elevator. A new message. Unknown number. She opened it. A single line. We need to talk. It's about Vanessa Pierce. Evelyn stared at the screen, because whoever sent that message knew something she hadn't uncovered yet. Evelyn didn't reply to the unknown number immediately. She stood still in the hallway outside the elevator, the message glowing faintly on her screen. The building around her had begun to wake up now, footsteps in the distance, quiet conversations behind closed doors, but the moment felt suspended, separate from everything else. We need to talk. It's about Vanessa Pierce. No name, no explanation, just enough to matter. Evelyn typed a single response. Who is this? She didn't wait long. You already know me. You just don't know I know you. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but her grip on the phone tightened slightly. That wasn't a random message. It wasn't curiosity or opportunism, it was intention. Where? She typed, a pause, then an address. A cafe 3 blocks from Benjamin's office. Public, neutral, controlled. Evelyn didn't ask another question, she went. The cafe was quiet when she arrived. Early enough that the crowd hadn't settled in yet, but busy enough to avoid attention. She scanned the room once, not hurried, not obvious. Then she saw him. Marcus Reed sat at a corner table, his posture slightly hunched. A laptop open in front of him he wasn't actually using. He looked up when she approached, his expression tightening for a fraction of a second before settling. "You moved fast," he said. Evelyn took the seat across from him. "So did you." Marcus let out a breath that sounded more like tension than relief. "I wasn't planning to contact you directly, but you did." Yes, Evelyn didn't ask why again. She already knew the answer. "Then talk," she said. Marcus glanced around once instinctively, then leaned forward slightly. "There's more than what I told you last night," he said. "A lot more." Evelyn stayed steady. "Start with Vanessa." Marcus hesitated. "She didn't just come in as a consultant," he said. "She came in with access already lined up." "What kind of access?" "To the deal structure. To the financing channels, to Blackridge." Evelyn didn't interrupt. "She introduced Blackridge as an external partner," Marcus continued. "But it wasn't external, not really. It was already connected to something bigger." "Sterling Meridian," Evelyn said. Marcus nodded slowly. "She knew the name before Daniel ever brought it up," he said. "That's what didn't make sense at first. She wasn't learning the deal, she was guiding it." Evelyn leaned back slightly, her mind aligning with each piece. "She didn't attach herself to Daniel," she said. "She positioned herself around him." "Yes." And he didn't see it. Marcus gave a small, humorless shake of his head. "He still doesn't." Evelyn studied him for a moment. "You said there was more," she said. Marcus swallowed once, then reached into his bag and pulled out a flash drive. He set it on the table between them, but didn't slide it forward yet. "This is everything I have," he said. "Internal emails, draft projections, communication logs." Evelyn's eyes dropped briefly to the drive, then back to him. "Why give it to me?" Marcus held her gaze this time. "Because she's not done," he said. Evelyn didn't move. "What does that mean?" she asked. Marcus leaned closer, lowering his voice. "She's not just trying to close the merger," he said. "She's trying to control what happens after." Evelyn's expression remained still, but something sharpened beneath it. "Explain." Marcus nodded toward the drive. "There are documents in there you haven't seen," he said. "Draft filings, legal positioning. It's not finalized, but it's close." "For what?" Marcus hesitated again. "Control claims," he said. Evelyn's fingers stilled. "On Sterling Meridian." The words landed quietly, but they carried weight. "She can't do that, not directly," Marcus replied. "But she's not doing it directly." Evelyn leaned forward now. "How?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "By tying Daniel's company deeper into the financing structure," he said. "Or by expanding his dependency. By creating enough overlap that when the trust matures, she can argue involvement." Evelyn finished. "Yes." Evelyn sat back again. That matched what Benjamin had told her. But this added something else, intent. "She's not guessing," Evelyn said. "She knows how the trust works." Marcus didn't answer right away, then quietly, "I think she had help." Evelyn's eyes lifted. "From who?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know, but she's not operating blind. She's too precise." Evelyn considered that. Vanessa's questions at the dinner, her timing, her control over the deal's structure. No, this wasn't improvisation. This was strategy. "And Daniel?" Evelyn asked. Marcus almost smiled, but there was no humor in it. "He thinks he's leading all of this," he said. "He thinks he's the one closing the biggest deal of his career, and he's not." "No." Evelyn's gaze shifted briefly towards the window, watching people move past outside, unaware of the conversation happening inside. "For him," Marcus added, "this is about success." "And for her?" Evelyn asked. Marcus looked at her carefully. "For her," he said, "this is about ownership." The word lingered. "Ownership, not of Daniel, not of the company, something larger." Evelyn reached forward and picked up the flash drive. It was small, light, but it carried enough to change everything. "You're putting yourself at risk," she said. Marcus nodded. "I know. Why now?" Marcus hesitated, then looked down briefly before meeting her eyes again. "Because I saw what happened last night," he said, "and I realized something." "What?" "You weren't surprised?" Evelyn didn't respond. "You weren't reacting," Marcus continued. "You were watching. Like you already knew where this was going." Evelyn held his gaze. "I did," she said. Marcus nodded slowly. "That's why I'm here," he said. Evelyn slipped the flash drive into her bag. "Then you're done with them," she said. Marcus didn't answer directly. "I'm done being the one who makes it possible," he said. Evelyn stood. "That's a start." Marcus looked up at her. They're moving fast, he said. Faster than you think. Evelyn paused. Evelyn, Marcus said. She stopped, just slightly. If she gets there first, he began. Evelyn didn't turn back. She won't, she said. She walked out of the cafe without another word, the door closing softly behind her. Outside, the city had fully come to life. Cars moved, people passed. The world continued as if nothing had shifted, but Evelyn knew better. She pulled out her phone and opened Benjamin's contact again. I have something you need to see, she typed. Then she added one more line. She's not just after the deal, she's preparing to claim the trust. She hit send. The reply came almost instantly. Then we're out of time. Evelyn looked at the screen for a long second, because that meant one thing. The next move wouldn't be quiet anymore, and whoever moved first would decide who controlled everything. Benjamin Lawson didn't ask her to come to his office. He told her to come immediately. Evelyn arrived less than 20 minutes later, the flash drive still in her bag, her thoughts already moving faster than the traffic she had left behind. Benjamin was waiting when she stepped in, not seated, not relaxed. He had cleared his desk completely except for a single folder and his phone. That alone told her everything had shifted. You weren't exaggerating, he said, without greeting. Sit. Evelyn closed the door behind her and took the chair across from him. She's building a position, she said, not just for the deal, for the trust. Benjamin studied her for a second, then nodded once. Show me. Evelyn handed him the flash drive. He didn't waste time. Within seconds, the documents began to populate his screen. Emails, projections, draft agreements, layered structures designed to look routine unless someone knew exactly where to look. Benjamin leaned forward, his expression tightening as he read. She's aggressive, he said quietly. Too aggressive for someone who thinks they're improvising. She isn't, Evelyn said. No. He clicked through another file, then another, his pace quick but precise. Then he stopped. Here, he said. Evelyn leaned closer. A draft filing sat open on the screen. Not finalized, not SMINE, but DILFENAPMA, legal positioning language, contingency clauses. Cross-linked financial exposure between Daniel's company and the larger structure behind it. Sterling Meridian Group wasn't named directly, but it didn't have to be. They're trying to create dependency, Benjamin said. The deeper Daniel's firm is tied into the financing structure, the easier it becomes to argue operational involvement. Evelyn nodded slowly, and operational involvement opens the door to influence. And influence opens the door to control. Benjamin finished. Silence settled for a moment. Then Benjamin leaned back, his eyes still on the screen. She's not just planning to benefit from the deal, he said. She's positioning herself to challenge the succession. Evelyn felt the weight of that settle. That's not a risk, she said. That's a strategy. Yes. Benjamin closed the file, which means we're out of time. Evelyn had already understood that. How long? She asked. Benjamin checked the calendar on his screen, then looked back at her. The trust matures in 9 days, he said, but if she pushes an early legal argument for involvement before that, she could complicate your claim. Complicate, Evelyn repeated. Not stop, Benjamin clarified, but delay, challenge, force a review process, and in that window she builds leverage. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. She's not planning to win clean, she said. She's planning to make it messy enough that control becomes negotiable. Benjamin nodded once. Exactly. Evelyn's gaze dropped briefly to her hands, then lifted again. And Daniel? She asked. Benjamin let out a quiet breath. He has no idea, he said. He thinks this is a business deal. He thinks he's building something. Evelyn's voice stayed calm. He is. Benjamin looked at her. He's building the structure she's going to take. Benjamin didn't argue. He turned back to his desk and opened the folder he had prepared. Inside were documents Evelyn hadn't seen before. Not because they were hidden, because they had never been hers to access until now. Your father anticipated something like this, Benjamin said. Evelyn's eyes moved across the pages. Trust language, safeguards, conditions, but also something else. A clause she hadn't focused on before. Read that line, Benjamin said. Evelyn did, her fingers stilled on the paper. If the named successor fails to formally claim control upon maturity, she read slowly, or is legally obstructed from doing so, provisional authority may be transferred to an alternate party with demonstrated operational involvement pending review. She looked up. That's the opening, she said. Benjamin nodded. That's exactly the opening, he replied, and Vanessa is building the case to qualify as that alternate party. Evelyn exhaled slowly. She doesn't need to own anything, she said. She just needs to be positioned as essential. And Daniel's company is the bridge, Benjamin added. The room went quiet again. Then Evelyn closed the folder. So we close it first, she said. Benjamin didn't respond immediately. You understand what that means, he said finally. Evelyn met his gaze. It means I claim control the moment the trust matures, she said. Before any argument, before any filing, before any challenge. Yes, and it has to be clean, she continued, documented, witnessed, filed. Immediately, Benjamin said. Evelyn nodded. No hesitation, no doubt. For the first time since the anniversary night, the direction in front of her wasn't uncertain. It was narrow, and it was sharp. Then we prepare, she said. Benjamin studied her for a second longer. You're not reacting, he said, you're moving. Evelyn didn't answer that, because the truth was simpler than anything she could say. She had been still for too long. Benjamin closed the folder and stood. I'll arrange everything, he said. Witnesses, notary, filing channel. The moment the trust matures, we execute. Evelyn rose as well. And Daniel? Benjamin asked. Evelyn paused. For now, she said, he believes exactly what he wants to believe. That you're out of the way, yes. Benjamin nodded slowly. That buys us time. Evelyn picked up her bag, but not much. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Benjamin, she said. He looked up. If she moves before the maturity date, Evelyn said. What happens? Benjamin didn't hesitate. Then we respond immediately, he said, and we make sure the record shows she acted first. Evelyn nodded once, because that mattered in court, in control, in everything. She left the office and stepped back into the city. But this time, she wasn't observing it. She was moving through it with purpose. That evening, she returned to the house. Nothing had changed on the surface, the same furniture, the same quiet, the same carefully maintained image of a life that had already started to fracture. But something else had changed, her. She walked into the living room and stopped. Vanessa Pierce was there, standing near the shelves, her phone in hand, her posture relaxed in a way that didn't belong to a guest. It belonged to someone who believed she already owned the space. Vanessa turned when she heard Evelyn enter. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vanessa smiled. Daniel said I could stop by, she said lightly. I wanted to get a feel for the place. Evelyn didn't react. Did you find what you were looking for? She asked. Vanessa's smile sharpened, just slightly. Not yet, she said. But I'm getting closer. Evelyn stepped further into the room, her gaze moving briefly to the shelves Vanessa had been standing near. Not the decor, the documents, framed certificates, old records, things Daniel had never paid attention to, but Vanessa had.
You ask very specific questions,
Evelyn said. Vanessa tilted her head. I like understanding what I'm working with, she replied. Evelyn held her gaze. And what do you think you're working with? Vanessa didn't answer directly. Instead, she stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to feel intentional. I think, she said, that people underestimate you. Evelyn didn't blink. Vanessa's smile returned. And I think that works in your favor, she added. A beat of silence passed. Then Vanessa stepped back again, casual, effortless. Tell Daniel I stopped by, she said, already turning toward the door. We have a lot to finalize? Evelyn watched her leave. The door closed. The house went quiet again, but the quiet felt different now. Not empty. Loaded. Evelyn moved to the shelf Vanessa had been standing near. Her fingers brushed lightly over one of the frames. A certificate. A name. Sterling. Vanessa hadn't been looking at the house. She had been studying the history. Evelyn reached into her bag and pulled out the flash drive again. Then she set it down on the table. Next to it, she placed the folder Benjamin had given her. 2 paths, one hidden, one about to be claimed. Her phone buzzed, a new message from Daniel. We need to finalize the paperwork tomorrow. No more delays. Evelyn stared at the screen for a moment. Then she typed back, send it over. She set the phone down. Her expression didn't change. But her decision had. Because tomorrow, he would hand her the last piece of evidence she needed, and he still wouldn't understand what he was giving away. Daniel didn't wait until morning. The paperwork arrived that same night. Evelyn found it in her inbox just after midnight, the subject line short and impatient. Final signatures, no delay. She opened it at the kitchen table, the house quiet around her, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the only sound in the room. For a moment, she didn't scroll. She just looked at the first page, at his name printed in bold, at the clean, legal language that always made things sound simpler than they were. Then she began to read. It didn't take long. The structure was exactly what she expected. Transfer language, liability shifts, guarantees framed as formalities, every line designed to look routine, necessary, inevitable, until it wasn't. She reached the section Benjamin had warned her about. Her name was there, not as a spouse, or as collateral. Evelyn's fingers stilled on the trackpad. Daniel hadn't just included her, he had built the deal around her. A personal guarantee tied to financing layers that looped back into Sterling Meridian Group without naming it directly. Or if anything collapsed, if anything failed, the liability would settle on her name before it reached him. Clean, efficient, deliberate. Evelyn leaned back slowly. For a long moment, she said nothing, did nothing. Then she kept reading. There was more. A secondary clause, deeper, referencing asset alignment post-merger, not ownership, not control, but access. Enough access to justify operational influence, enough influence to support a legal argument later. Vanessa's work. Precise, patient, dangerous. Evelyn closed the document. She didn't feel shocked. That had passed. What remained was something colder. Clarity. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. Did you see it? We're signing tomorrow. Don't complicate this. Evelyn stared at the screen. 15 years of being careful, of choosing silence, of believing that patience would be enough to hold something together. And this was what it had built. A contract designed to erase her. She typed back, "I'll review it in the morning." She set the phone down and closed her eyes for a second. Then she opened them again and reached for her bag. The flash drive, the folder. She spread both across the table and opened the laptop again. This time not as a wife reading a request, but as someone verifying a structure. Line by line, cross-reference by cross-reference. She checked the numbers, the flows, the dependencies, and each time the same conclusion. Daniel hadn't made a mistake. He had made a choice. A quiet one, a calculated one. He believed she wouldn't understand. That belief had built everything he was standing on. By 3 a.m, Evelyn had documented every relevant section, screenshots, notes, timestamps. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She built a record. When she finally closed the laptop, the sound outside the window had begun to lighten. She didn't go to bed. Instead, she picked up her phone and dialed. Benjamin answered on the second ring. "You read it," he said. "Yes." A brief pause. "And?" Evelyn looked at the document still spread across the table. "He's not asking me to sign," she said quietly. "He's assuming I will." Benjamin let out a slow breath. "Then we're exactly where we expected to be." Evelyn nodded, even though he couldn't see it. "He tied everything back to me," she said. "If the deal fails, I take the fall. If it succeeds, Vanessa builds access. And Daniel walks away clean," Benjamin added. "Yes." Another pause. Then Benjamin's voice sharpened. "Do not sign anything," he said. "Not a single page. Bring it to me in the morning, I will." Evelyn ended the call and sat there for a moment longer. Then she began gathering the papers. Not to hide them, to protect them. Because this wasn't just about a contract anymore. It was evidence. Morning came without ceremony. Daniel was already in the living room when she walked in, dressed, composed, his phone in one hand, coffee in the other. He didn't look up immediately when she entered. He didn't have to. He already knew how this would go. "You got the documents," he said. Evelyn set her bag down on the table. "I did. Good." He finally glanced at her. "Then we don't need to drag this out." His tone was casual, efficient. Like they were discussing a meeting, not the dismantling of a marriage. Evelyn held his gaze. "I read everything," she said. Daniel nodded once. "Then you understand it's standard?" "No," she said calmly. "I understand it's structured." A flicker of irritation crossed his face. "Same thing," he said. "It isn't." Silence settled between them. Daniel set his coffee down. "Evelyn," he said, his voice tightening just slightly. "This deal is bigger than anything we've done. It requires alignment. That's all this is. Alignment," she repeated. "Yes." "And my name on the guarantee?" she asked. "That's procedural." Evelyn didn't look away. "And the liability?" Daniel exhaled, already impatient. "You're overthinking it?" "No," she said. "I'm reading it." That landed. For a second, something shifted in his expression. Then it hardened. "You've never had an issue before," he said. "Why now?" Evelyn didn't answer immediately. Because the truth wasn't something he would accept. Instead, she said, "Because this time it matters." Daniel stared at her. "It always mattered," he said. "No," Evelyn replied quietly. "It didn't." The words hung there, not loud, not dramatic, but final. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Look," he said, dropping the pretense, "we don't have time for this. The investors are expecting signatures. Everything is lined up. You signing is a formality." Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "A formality." she repeated. Yes, and if I don't? Daniel didn't hesitate. Then you're the reason this fails. There it was, not hidden, not softened, clear. Evelyn felt something settle inside her, not anger, not even hurt, just confirmation. She reached into her bag and pulled out the printed documents. Set them on the table. Flat, careful. I'll take these with me, she said. Daniel frowned. For what? For review? You already reviewed them? I'll review them again. His patience snapped just a little. This isn't complicated, Evelyn. No, she said. It isn't. Their eyes locked. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Daniel leaned back slightly, studying her in a way he hadn't in years. You've changed, he said. Evelyn didn't respond, because she hadn't. She had just stopped pretending. Daniel shook his head, dismissing it. Fine, he said. Review them, but we're signing tonight, at the anniversary, in front of everyone. Evelyn's fingers tightened slightly around the edge of the papers. Tonight, she repeated. Yes. He picked up his coffee again, already done with the conversation. Don't make this difficult. Evelyn watched him for a second longer. Then she gathered the documents, placed them back into her bag, and turned toward the door. Evelyn. She paused. Daniel didn't look at her. Don't embarrass me, he said. The words were quiet, but they landed harder than anything else he had said. Evelyn stood there for a moment. Then she answered, just as quietly. I won't, and she left. Outside, the air felt sharper, clearer. She walked to her car, opened the door, and sat behind the wheel without starting the engine. Her phone buzzed, a new message. Not from Daniel, from Benjamin. Call me now. Evelyn's chest tightened slightly. She answered immediately. What is it? Benjamin didn't ease into it. They filed something, he said. Last night. Vanessa's name is on it. Evelyn's grip on the phone tightened. What kind of filing? Benjamin exhaled once. A preliminary claim of operational involvement tied to the financing structure, he said. It's not complete, it won't hold yet, but it's enough to flag the trust protector. Evelyn closed her eyes for a second. They moved early, yes, a beat of silence. Then Benjamin said, Evelyn, they're not waiting for the maturity date anymore. Evelyn opened her eyes again. Her voice was steady. Then neither are we. On the other end of the line, Benjamin didn't answer immediately, because they both understood what that meant. The timeline had just collapsed, and the next move would decide everything. The ballroom emptied faster than it had filled, not with noise, but with quiet urgency. Investors stepped away from the tables, voices lowered, phones pressed to ears. Richard Caldwell was already at the exit when Daniel tried to reach him, his hand hovering in the air before dropping back to his side. No one waited for explanations, because the truth had already been said. Evelyn stood near the stage, the microphone still resting where she had left it. She didn't look at the crowd. She didn't look at the cameras. She looked at Daniel. For the first time that night, he looked back. Really looked. Not at the woman he had learned to dismiss. Not at the quiet presence he had taken for granted, but at the person who had just undone everything he thought he controlled. You knew, he said, his voice low, almost unsteady. Evelyn didn't move. I knew enough, she answered. Daniel shook his head slowly, as if trying to push away the reality settling around him. All of this, the deal, the financing, he stopped, searching for something solid to hold on to. You're telling me this was you? Evelyn held his gaze. It was always me, she said. The words didn't rise. They didn't need to. Daniel's breath caught slightly. The weight of it landed all at once. Not just the loss of the deal, or the investors, or the control he thought he had, but the years. 15 of them. He looked around the room, now half empty. The celebration turned into something else entirely. I built this, said, but certainty was gone. Evelyn's expression didn't change. No, she said quietly. We did. That word, we, hung between them like something fragile and already broken. Daniel swallowed. And you just let me believe, yes. The honesty of it cut deeper than any accusation. Why? He asked. Evelyn's eyes softened, but not with weakness. With hope, she said, at first. Daniel looked at her like he didn't understand the language anymore. And after that, he pressed. Evelyn paused. After that, she said, it wasn't hope anymore, it was habit. Silence stretched between them. Then Daniel's gaze shifted, searching, almost desperate now. We can fix this, he said quickly. You have the control now, right? You can approve the deal. We can still close. We can. No. The word was final. Daniel stopped. You're walking away, he asked. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. I'm stepping out, she said. There's a difference. Daniel let out a short, hollow laugh. There's no difference to me. Evelyn nodded once. I know. That was the point. Behind them, Vanessa Pierce had already moved toward the exit. Her composure hadn't broken, but the calculation in her eyes had shifted. She didn't look back at Daniel. Not once. Because she had already understood what the room had confirmed. The leverage she had been building no longer existed. The door she had walked through was closing, and she had no reason to stay inside it. Margaret Whitmore remained seated, her posture rigid, her expression carefully held together. But the certainty she had carried for years about who mattered, about who didn't, had cracked. She didn't speak. There was nothing left that would land the way she wanted it to. Evelyn stepped down from the stage. The sound of her heels on the floor was soft, steady, unhurried. Daniel watched her approach, something like realization finally breaking through the last of his denial. "You're not coming back, are you?" he asked. Evelyn stopped in front of him. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she reached for her ring. Not with anger, not with hesitation, just with clarity. She slipped it off and placed it gently on the table beside him. "I already left," she said. Daniel stared at the ring, at the small, simple thing he had once thought was the center of everything, and now understood had never been enough. "Evelyn," he started. But there was nothing he could add that would change what had already been done. Evelyn didn't wait for him to finish. She turned and walked toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one called her name. The room that had once made her feel small didn't follow her out. It stayed behind, with him. In the weeks that followed, the unraveling didn't happen all at once. It came in layers. The deal collapsed publicly, not because of a single refusal, but because the foundation behind it had been withdrawn. Without Sterling Meridian Group's approval, the financing structure dissolved, investors pulled back, legal reviews opened, questions followed, then consequences. Daniel faced them one by one. Financial exposure, investigations into the guarantees he had signed, the discrepancies in the reporting, the quiet choices that had once felt invisible, now laid out in documents and timelines. Nothing exaggerated, nothing dramatic, just the slow, steady weight of reality. Vanessa distanced herself early. Her filings were withdrawn before they could escalate. The narrative shifted quickly. Professional misalignment, strategic disagreement. She protected herself, the way she always had. Margaret retreated from public view, and Daniel learned what it meant to stand alone in a room that used to move with him. Evelyn didn't watch it happen. She didn't need to, because for the first time in years, her life wasn't anchored to his. She moved into a smaller place across the city, not hidden, not extravagant, just hers. Clean, quiet, intentional. Benjamin finalized the transfer of control within the trust. Everything was documented, secured, structured the way her father had intended. No gaps, no openings, no questions. The power was no longer hidden, it simply existed. And Evelyn chose what to do with it. She didn't rebuild what had broken. She built something else. The Sterling Hope Foundation opened in a modest building downtown. Its name, simple. Its purpose clear. It wasn't about scale. It wasn't about visibility. It was about precision. Legal support for women navigating financial manipulation, quiet advocacy in rooms where voices were often dismissed, structured help, or where confusion had once been used as control. Evelyn didn't stand in front of it. She stood inside it, working, listening, deciding, because power, when it was finally hers, didn't need to be proven. It needed to be used. One afternoon, months later, a letter arrived. No return address needed. She knew the handwriting. Daniel. She didn't open it immediately. She placed it on the desk, finished what she was doing, then sat back and looked at it. For a long moment, she simply let it exist. Then she opened it. The words inside weren't dramatic. They didn't try to undo anything. They acknowledged regret, recognition, loss. Not of the deal, not of the money, but of something he had never understood while he had it. Evelyn read it once, then folded it carefully. She didn't tear it. She didn't respond. She placed it in a drawer and closed it. Not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer decided anything. That night, she stood by the window of her apartment, the city stretching out in front of her, alive, indifferent, full of movement. For the first time in 15 years, there was no expectation waiting for her. No role she had to fill, no silence she had to maintain, just space and choice. Evelyn didn't go back, not because she couldn't, but because for the first time in 15 years, she didn't need to stay. If this ending stayed with you, share your thoughts below. And if you've ever had to choose yourself over what you built with someone else, you're not alone.